Some mornings start with alarms and rushing. This one starts with warmth, water, and a little cartoon magic. Hi, and welcome to this Podfic recording of Bluey, Bottles, and Being Loved. Written and read by me, DreamerAxie. This story contains themes of age regression and caregiving, all portrayed as safe, consensual, and comforting. Please listen with gentleness and take breaks if you need them. If you need something calm to start your day, or end it, this might be it. Let's begin. Nico's eyes blinked slowly as he stretched, the pacifier bobbing gently with each small movement. Will smiled as he prepared the little bottle, remembering how Nico had slipped into a space no older than 2 yesterday, maybe closer to 1.5. Bottles always brought him comfort. He ruffled Nico's hair. "Good morning, sweetness. Did you sleep well?" "Yeah, Dada." Nico's sleepy smile grew when he spotted the bottle, hands making impatient grabby motions. Are you old enough to hold it yourself?" Will asked, the corner of his mouth quirking. "Uh-huh." Nico nodded seriously. Will passed it over, but stayed beside him, settling on the bed with a gentle hand at Nico's back. Nico latched onto the bottle instantly, a small sigh of relief almost masking the soft sound of milk flowing. "That's it. Nice and slow," Will muttered, brushing a strand of hair from Nico's forehead. Halfway through, a bead of milk rolled down Nico's chin. Will caught it with his thumb and tucked the blanket higher over Nico's shoulders. Nico kept drinking, blinking up at Will now and then with content, drowsy eyes. By the time Nico lowered the bottle, 15 minutes had passed. Quicker than usual. His cheeks were warm, and a little milk marked his shirt. "Were you hungry?" Will asked, tone more fond than anything. "Let's have a bath. Get yesterday off of you," he said, already moving to pick Nico up. Will knew his motor skills weren't the best when he was this small. "Come here," he grunted softly as he lifted Nico, careful and secure. "Can you wrap your legs around me?" Nico did, clinging to Will's sides and resting his head on his shoulder. "I don't want a bath," he mumbled around his pacifier. "But you're a dirty little gremlin," Will teased, chuckling as he held Nico tighter. "We'll make it fun. You can even pick which toys join you." "Ducky," Nico said, perking up instantly. "Ducky and Wiwa." Will smiled, heart softening at how easily the smallest things could light Nico up when he was this little. "Okay, Ducky and Wiwa it is." He settled Nico carefully on the closed toilet lid. "Stay here, sweetheart. I'll be right back." Will stepped into the main room to fetch the rubber duck and small plush raccoon Nico meant. The thud made his heart drop. He rushed back into the bathroom to see Nico crumpled on the floor, pacifier knocked loose, tears already gathering. "Oh, baby." Bill crouched down immediately, running gentle hands over Nico to check for anything more than a bump. No other injuries. "You know you can't walk, baby," Will muttered, pulling Nico into his arms and rubbing his back in slow circles. "Wanna come?" Nico sniffled, voice small and wobbly. "I know, but I'll always come back." Will slid his hands under Nico's arms, lifting him back onto the toilet lid. "Let's get you back up." "Now don't move," Will said gently as he turned to grab the towels, washcloths. He'd already set out fresh clothes for Nico earlier while the little was still sleeping. "Arms up," he prompted. Nico shook his head quickly, pacifier bobbing. "Why not, sweetness?" Will crouched so they were eye to eye, his voice calm, wanting to hear whatever was on Nico's mind. "Cold," Nico said, giving an exaggerated shiver for emphasis. Will smiled softly. "All right, if you stay here, I'll turn up the heat." Nico thought for a moment before nodding. "Okay." True to his word, Will stepped into the main room and turned up the thermostat a few degrees, and came back holding one of Nico's big, soft sweaters. "Here," Will said, easing it over Nico's head. "Warm first, bad second." After waiting for the heat to climb, Will said again, "Arms up." Nico slowly lifted his arms, and Will eased the sweater and shirt over his head. He steadied Nico's wobbly legs as he tugged off the pants, leaning down to kiss his nose after each piece. The corner of his mouth quirked higher every time Nico giggled. "That time," Will said warmly, guiding Nico to sit in the tub. The special little soap foamed easily under his hands, and Will's touch lingered a fraction longer than necessary as he lathered Nico's arms and shoulders. He rinsed the suds away with care, his palm shielding Nico's chest from the cooler water. "Why?" Nico asked when Will told him he was proud, head tilting in curiosity, wet hair sticking up at odd angles. "Because you told me when you were uncomfortable," Will answered softly as he reached for the shampoo. When it came time to rinse, he cupped the water just right, careful not to let a drop get in Nico's eyes. The little sigh Nico gave made Will smile without even realizing it. By the time Nico's fingers had pruned and the water had cooled, Will had already tucked Ducky and Weewa into the towel for him, waiting like old friends. "All done," he said, ready with the fluffiest towel. After drying him off, Will reached for the skeleton onesie and helped Nico step into it. The littlest damp hair stuck out in every direction. "Sweater?" Nico asked, looking up with dark eyes. "Of course, sweetness," Will muttered, pulling the sweater over Nico's head. He smoothed the fabric down, hands pausing briefly at Nico's shoulders, giving them a light squeeze before scooping him back into his arms. "What do you want to do now?" Will asked as he held him close. "Bluey, Dada," Nico said, snuggling into the hole without hesitation. "Bluey it is," Will muttered, carrying him over and setting him on the couch. Will sat right beside him, letting Nico scoot close until the sides touched. "Thank you, Dada," Nico mumbled, resting his head against Will's shoulder. "You're very welcome, baby," Will said softly, pressing his kiss into Nico's hair. His hand stayed there, gently combing through the dark strands. The Bluey theme song started, and Will tugged the blanket over them both. Nico giggled at the screen, and Will's lips curved as he quietly hummed along to the melody. His thumb stroked the fabric of Nico's onesie in slow, absent circles. "Best morning ever," Will whispered into the crown of Nico's head, and meant it. The world outside cabin 13 went on as usual, but in here, it was quiet, warm, and safe, wrapped in the glow of the TV and each other's arms. Nico's eyes fluttered shut halfway through the episode. Will adjusted the blanket, holding him just a little tighter. "Best morning ever," he whispered again, and this time, Nico's quiet hum of agreement was the only reply he needed. Thank you for listening to Bluey, Bottles, and Being Loved. This podfic is a part of the DreamerAxie library, where every story is told with care. If it gave you a moment of warmth or helped you breathe a little easier, I'm glad. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. See you next nap time.